Hello, I'm Felice, and I'm joined here by Kim. You are tuning in to Work It, the only podcast where we get honest about your situation at work. We believe that work impacts our whole person, including our personal lives, and yes, even our health. Our goal here is to empower you, encourage you, and energize you in your everyday work life. So pull up because this is where the real orientation and the fun begins. Welcome, Kim.
Welcome. Thank you. Good to see you again today, Felice. Yeah, we want to let people know that just because it's work doesn't mean you need to let it work you.
I love it. I love it. So why don't we just start off? This is our pilot episode. Let's let the audience get to know both of us. And first, should we give them a little bit of background, or should we just jump right into our question?
Oh, we should let them know who we are because that'll give them a flavor for everything we do.
All right. Okay. So I'll kick it off. So I am Felice. Many of you may know me from my podcast, Beauty Not Boundaries. In my regular day-to-day work life, I am a traditional labor and employment attorney. I have been dealing in workplace issues for about 20 years. Even before I became an attorney, I was deeply involved in workplace issues, both in private practice and in public service. And so I just believe that work is so central to our lives that I'm really excited to share this podcast with you and really converse with Kim and dig into some deep issues. Kim?
So, Felice and I have a great time talking about work issues all the time. And we just got to the point where we were like, we need to share this with other people. I have a long career as a trial attorney. And then one day I just decided I wanted to do some other things. I've had my own practice. I have been general counsel of the NAACP. So I've seen labor issues from all different sides, including a union. And then currently I mediate and arbitrate for the largest arbitration mediation company in the world, JAMS, Judicial Arbitration and Mediation Service. I consult on issues involving tech and telecom. I also teach at the George Washington University Law School, where I'll be teaching negotiation in the fall. And as I'm doing all these mediations and arbitrations, I'm seeing people who really, if they had just had a little good advice at the beginning, they might not be in those mediations with me. And I really want to see people fly. And I hate having all this knowledge all hidden to myself when Felice and I can break it down for you so that you just hear our voices and say, oh no, no, I will be going a different path. Leave that for the people who didn't watch the podcast. So here we are.
There is just so much, and Kim, you hit it right on the head. So much happens at work, and a lot of times it can end in a way that we really don't want, or we think it could be better. And when I say end, I'm not talking about the end of your employment. I'm just talking about how encouraged you feel, how passionate you feel about what you're doing, the next steps that you're willing to take in your career, the risk you're willing to take. All of that is impacted by how we experience work day to day. So maybe we can save some folks the agony. Maybe we can help them be encouraged and empowered like we just talked about. And so let's dive into a couple of just icebreaker questions. So first, I know you hit up on it. I did too. But really, why is this conversation and this podcast, Work It, important to you?
I believe that we have something unique to say in this space. I believe that work is almost too late. If you're asking the questions at your job, you're almost too late. You're either asking the wrong people or you're asking at the wrong time. Some things have to be surfaced somewhere else. Some things should be surfaced after they make you the offer. And all of these are things that we can really talk about and have some fun with when it's not you on the line, right? Your livelihood on the line. Right now, you're just chilling with us and you're learning a lot that you can take back with you. And I know you feel the same way too, Felice, but when I became a lawyer, I really did want to be a social engineer, like Charles Hamilton Houston said. And I really believe this is our opportunity. I want you to be able to go to the best lawyer to get the best help, but I also want you to go in the best position. I don't want you to get there and they're like, well, if you had done this, or well, if you had thought about this, we wouldn't be here today. We want to help you help you.
Absolutely. And since we're both lawyers, we may as well just put the tagline out there that this is not legal advice. Nothing on this podcast constitutes legal advice. If you have legal questions and you need legal advice, you are encouraged to seek out a lawyer in your jurisdiction. Because remember, lawyers have to be licensed in the jurisdiction in which they are giving legal advice, which constitutes the practice of law. Keep that in mind before you start calling all over the country, family and friends, trying to get advice for something that's happening in your state. But our goal is to make the advice unnecessary, right? To give you some tools to deal with, so to work with. So why this podcast is important to me is because it's just really, work is just so central. I mean, it's how we fund everything in our lives. That house we live in, that car we're driving, that vacation we go on, the kids we send to college, the parents we take care of. Work funds all of that. And when something goes off the rails at work, it can impact our entire life, right? And then when things are great at work, that can inspire us to strive for more and better and higher, right? We feel good about ourselves. We feel good about the world. It impacts how we engage with other people outside of work, right? So I just think this is a great place and a great platform to have a conversation and get honest about a lot of things that we don't get honest about work.
I love that. I mean, again, our show is about legal information. We absolutely are not providing any advice whatsoever, but we're giving you some of the tools. Felice is absolutely right about that. Our show is really about giving you some tools so that if you should need legal advice, you'll be in a better position, or you'll have more information, or you'll have a deeper understanding of what things are at play. And those are the things that you need from day to day. So this is just all about us sharing what we know with you so that you have that information at your fingertips.
Absolutely. So what's up next on our icebreaker list here?
Well, what would you have wanted to have understood better that you wish you had known earlier in your career? What would earlier, younger Felice want to know that she doesn't know now, that she knows now?
You know, more money and a bigger title doesn't necessarily mean greater respect or respect at all, support or satisfaction. All of that goes to how we experience work. I think a lot of times we get caught up in chasing money and title because we are led to believe that the bigger the title, the more money we make, the more important we are, and the more valid we are. But that doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to respond well to that, or that you're going to be respected or supported, or that you're going to even be satisfied in what you do. So, I remember before I became an attorney, seeing a Jaguar with the license plate litigator on it. And I thought that was just the coolest, right? And to have like that flashy car with like a crazy license plate and to live large, that just all seemed like it was not that it was important, but that it would change things. It does change some things in creating a little bit more financial security and career security, but that can only go so far. So I think I've learned that through the years.
You make such good points. When you're newer in your career, the shiny things are shiny, right? More money, better title, they're shiny, but they may not be shiny when you get there. Everything looks better from a distance. That's why people think the grass is greener, but the grass is just further away. When you get there, it's just grass. It only matters if it's what you wanted. So for me, I think the most important thing I would have wanted to know is that respect is the ultimate thing you look for in their workplace. If people respect you, everything else you need to come from that and flow from that will come. You will make more money. You will have a better title. Your team will follow you. You will be a good leader. And that is because people respect you. And in order to do that, you have to bring your full authentic self to the table. You have to be transparent. You have to be focused. You have to be dedicated. And yeah, at the beginning, you're going to work your butt off, and there's going to be hours and hours and hours where people are like, where is she? And she's at work.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That ties right into another a lesson that I've learned, which I'll say, and then we'll move on. But let your work do the talking for you. Um,
Absolutely.
you know, a lot of people spend a lot of time trying to convince people of something about them one way or the other. And I learned early on from a mentor to let my work do the talking, right? You will see by what I produce. You will know this tree by its fruit. So, Kim, what is the biggest lesson you learned as an attorney, leader, or professional that you apply in your everyday life today?
If you don't have a plan, you're part of somebody else's plan. We bring our authentic self to work. We work like dogs and cats, and we think that's going to be enough. And we think that the people who are above us in terms of the hierarchy of the organization are going to think, there's that Kim Keenan, she works harder, she works longer, she comes in more often, she works on the weekends, she does whatever it takes to get the job done excellently. And we just assume that they're going to be saying, hey, this is the kind of person we want to make our partner. This is the person we want to make vice president. But that's not necessarily what's happening. They may just be thinking, Kim works hard. Let's work her. How hard do you think she can work? Can we work her harder? If we can't work her harder, let's just keep her working hard. Let's check in on her now. Let's give her a carrot here or there. Maybe give a little money here. Maybe we'll season up her title a little bit. But pretty much Kim has set herself on the path of being the person who's working 24 hours a day. But if you have a plan and you know that you have acquired all the skills you need, you have demonstrated the leadership that you need, and you're ready for a new challenge, then it's never about what their plan is. It's about what your plan is. Because if you've gotten all that together, nobody wants you to leave. And in order to get you to stay, they'll have to give you some things that you want. And if they don't catch it, right? Because sometimes people at work are not thinking about you and your future every day. So that means that you have to be thinking about it. And if you've thought about it and you guys aren't having a meeting of the minds, then it might be time for you to be somewhere else where people see you that way. And sometimes, I'll be candid with you, I think the jump from one place to another place makes people appreciate you more and retrospectively recognize what your contributions are. But if you just stay and dig it out forever, I'm not saying quit the second you feel that way. I'm saying if you've done everything, given it all you've got, and you feel like you're stuck, maybe the answer to that is you should be somewhere else. So you have to have your own plan in order to know that answer, and nobody can know that but you.
Right. And even if you don't feel stuck, but actually are,
That's right. You're not feeling stuck.
right, because you could be on a hamster wheel and actually
Mhm.
feel like you are making progress. But if you ask someone externally, right,
Exactly.
some advisors, they will let you know if no, this is about the same thing you've been doing. You have been doing this. It just may be in a different shape or form, but it's the same thing. And so sometimes you might feel like you're not stuck because you're busy, but busy doesn't necessarily mean growth or that you're learning anything new.
And
So
check out.
am I 100% agree with that? Sorry about that.
No, I was just going to say, everybody, focus in on what Felice said. This whole notion of she consulted with someone outside of her organization. She didn't call somebody in her organization to ask for the advice about whether she's on the hamster wheel. She called somebody who's over there. Why? Because if you make a mistake and you call somebody in the building and they say, well, Felice is just unhappy. Unhappy, can't be pleased. We don't do enough for her. She feels like we should have promoted her earlier. She's not getting the best assignments. And now, if you didn't know you were stuck, you're about to get a big boulder in front of your office. But if you call somebody else's company, they'll say, well, over here, that's stuck. Done. Done.
Right.
Done.
Mentors, advisors. People can get honest with you about your situation if you let them. If you let them, if you take down the defenses and let people get honest with you about your situation, they certainly will do that. So Kim, let's see, what do we have next? So I need to answer that question. What is the biggest lesson that I learned in my professional life, whether it's an attorney, organizational leader, or professional? I have to be myself and nobody else. You know, people will try to make you fit a mold. People want to carve out a little box and stick you in it because it makes them feel comfortable, right? But you have to be courageous enough and confident enough to just be yourself and nobody else. I cannot, nor do I aim to please everybody and make everybody happy because I have learned that that's impossible. There will always be new devils at the new levels. There will always be naysayers. There will always be people who are more comfortable with the status quo than they are with growth. So, my job and my goal is always to give it my all, to do my best, to strive for excellence, and be the type of person who can stand by what I said, can stand by what I did, or I can stand by what I didn't do and what I didn't say, and that I am supportive and helpful to others. So, I think it's taken me, and Kim, you've been in this practice and in this game a lot longer than I have, but I think it has taken me this amount of time to really put that all together and feel confident about that and apply that in every area of my life, not just work, but my personal life, and my friendships.
I'm gonna have a sign made that says "New Devils at New Levels" because I just think that's sexy on every wavelength that you can go. That's what each challenge is for. You're supposed to navigate new devils. In fact, if you're not navigating new devils at new levels, then you're probably doing something wrong. But bringing your authentic self to the table is really a game changer. I remember, as she put it out in the olden days when I started,
I did not say
so
olden days.
long ago. But there were so few women, and you didn't have. I mean, there was no female Perry Mason. There was no Johnny Cochran. Constance Baker Motley was out there, but again, we weren't really seeing her the way you see people today. And I think the key is that you have to find a way to do what you do and bring you to it so that you're not lost in the blandness of a box. I am circular in everything that I do. So I'm never going to fit in a box unless you chop it somehow. So you really have to know and be confident about that. Be confident that you do it differently. I remember working for somebody that every time he asked somebody a question in deposition, they would literally tremble. I mean, we're not talking about like just, we did some regular fact witness. We're talking about doctors and neurosurgeons and architects. And he would just ask a question, they would forget. Do you think that when I ask questions, and I probably looked 10 to them, that they shook in their boots because I was asking? No. So I had to come up with a way to get to the same result, but not be him because they weren't seeing him. They were seeing the 10-year-old woman that didn't look like she could have a law degree. And they kept sometimes they would just literally look at the other counsel and go, do we really have to answer the little girl's questions? And I learned, right? I learned that just like going in hard and trying to beat them down was not going to work for me. But I tell you what did. I pretended to be Columbo, and I'd go, well, can you explain this for me? Or can you tell me that? You would be shocked at how people just pander to oh, she's asked me what I think. And by the time they finished that 2-paragraph diatribe, I already had my answers that I needed. And I already had as good a stuff as the partner did without half the crazy to get there. And so you have to figure out what works best for you. You have to do it as you, and you can't do it as somebody else. And it just doesn't work. And it's just way too much work. Already work. You don't have to make it hard. It is hard.
It is hard. And, I once was asked, how could I mimic someone else? Right. I had gone out for a promotion, and in the interview process, someone asked, well, how I plan to emulate what someone else in the organization was doing. And my response was, I can give you excellent outcomes, but I have to do it in my way and in my fashion. If you want a carbon copy of what you already have, I'm not that person. And you already have that person here. So why not just promote that person or put that person in charge? But I cannot wear somebody else's gear. I cannot fight these battles using somebody else's weapons, right? I cannot dress like someone else. I cannot sound like someone else. Like I have come across women, Kim, in this profession who have managed to speak in just a very even monotone to because that's their way of getting an outcome, right? That's not me. This is how I speak. I am a, litigator and trial attorney. So the litigator side might be worried about speaking in a certain way to resolve this, but the trial attorney is coming with fire. So I have to be able to blend all of that, put it in a bowl, mix it together, and produce my best self to give you the best results. And it's worked.
The thing is, they're all tools in a toolkit. Sometimes you talk to people calmly and in a bit of a hushed tone because you need to calm and soothe them. You don't do it because you're, like you said, you're animated and you're trying to make a point. Some people you have to soothe them out, or you just they're going to ratchet it up to DEFCON 12 that doesn't exist, and you're going to be trying to deal with the aftermath of that. But they're all too. That's what this is about today. We're trying to show people how we look at things like a big toolkit, and sometimes you pull out your hammer and sometimes you pull out your wrench, but you just try to know what tool goes with what situation so you can make it work, because it's work.
Because it's work. All right, what do we have next?
All right, now, so we've talked a little bit about sort of what our mindsets are, but why don't we talk a little bit? So what is your biggest accomplishment, Felice, to date? Like, what are you most proud of?
Hmm. I'm proud of a lot. And on all these points, Kim, I have so much, but I know we have a limited amount of time. But
That's true.
I think big picture, you know, is charting my own course, really deciding for myself what I wanted and pursuing it um, tirelessly, right? Leaving all comforts behind and moving to a totally different region of the United States because my spirit couldn't rest until I had done so. My life was forever changed for the better. That is why I encourage others to listen to the spirit or the voice within them, be obedient, and to follow the signs that you are headed in the right direction and heed the signs that you are going in the wrong direction. So, for me, big picture, my biggest accomplishment is really being dialed into myself and listening and charting my own course, not letting anybody else decide that for me.
I love that. I think that is so authentic. We both of us could list, awards arm's length long, and we could represent, things we did for our clients that no one had ever been able to do before. We could list that on and on and on. But you're absolutely right. It doesn't matter what you did for other people if you didn't do anything for your mental spirit and for your vision, because all of us don't want the same title, all of us don't need the same salary, but we all have our version of what that looks like. And I will tell you that being here with you is one of my big accomplishments, to be able to create a work lifestyle where I can include our discussions about something that I'm enthusiastic about, that I care about, that I have passion about, and to do it with someone who has a like mind. If anything, the truth of it is we drew each other to each other from the universe, and now we get to do something that we both want to do together, and we do it because it's our passion, not because we have to, not because somebody told us to, not because it's what people think we should be doing. We're here because we chose to do this. And to me, certainly at this time in my career, I don't want to do anything that I don't want to do. So if you want to say to me, what is your big life goal? My goal is not to do anything that I don't really want to do. So if you see me somewhere working, people, it's because I'm happy and I want to do that. And I'm grateful because that really says I'm living what I'm saying to others.
Amen and amen. So, all right, Kim, what is something about work that is often misunderstood or ignored?
People forget that it's work, and now more than ever, I mean, it's just unbelievable to me. People talk about work like it's the minister, it's the guru, it's the boyfriend, the
It's the
girlfriend.
social justice platform.
Right, it's your mama. It's your opportunity to show who your authentic self is. It's your opportunity to show people that there's another way to do it. And oh, don't forget all the people who have to be authentic to themselves. Even if authentic to themselves means, we don't wash our face in the morning, or we only wear, I don't know, jeans from head to toe every day. And I think people have forgotten that the whole reason we come together at work is to work. I got to tell you, I don't want to know. I, I don't want to treat anybody differently because of whatever their outlook on life is, or their status, or their color, or culture, or religion. But at the same time, I am super there to work. I mean, like I am not even thinking about the other things because I'm so focused on the work, because the work is the reason why we're there. And I think people sometimes forget that. I understand that there are places where people are persecuted for bringing who they are to work, and that's different. But we're talking about every day, everything can't be about the fact that I'm a Black woman. All day long, if we're talking about that, no work. And I gotta tell you, my experience has been that if I'm not doing any work, I'm probably not going to get to stay. So I want to be doing some work. I want to be able to demonstrate how valuable I am. And I just think that sometimes we get so caught up that we forget that that's why they call it work, because it's work.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
don't know. What do you think about that, Felice?
No,
What do you think is misunderstood?
right. I think you're 100% right. Spot on. Work is work. And everybody at work is not going to like me. Everybody at work is not going to want to sit next to me in the lunchroom. Not everybody at work is not going to accept my beliefs, right? Nor is it their job to do so. It's their job to not unlawfully discriminate against me and create a hostile,
Exactly.
right?
Can't do that. Can't do that.
Right?
Right.
Right, cannot do that. But in terms of them accepting everything that I have to say and how I want to express myself, that's not really, like, we're not focused on the work. That's focused on something else outside of work, right? So, and there's a whole, I mean, there's just so much happening right now out there in the world as to what an employer's obligation, if any, is to certain social justice. I don't want to say mandates, but social justice goals, right? Should an employer adopt such goals as part of its mission? Well, I don't know. It depends on the employer, right? But we always have to be focused on why this is work and what the mission is of the organization. Are we here to produce widgets? Then we're focused on producing widgets. If
Well, I
we
mean,
are
again, if you work for PETA, then of
right,
course, animals and making sure that they're safe. If you want to talk about that all day long, you want to bring your dog to work, everybody's happy with that. But if you work for, a biopharmaceutical firm, you may not be able to bring your dog to work. Now, you may feel strongly about that. You love, love, love your dog. You hug and kiss him every day, but he may not be able to come in the pharmaceutical lab. And so we have to know the difference between illegal discrimination and this is the wrong time, place, and manner for bringing Fido to work. And if you want to be able to bring Fido, and that's in your top 3, then there's all these wonderful places that will allow you to bring Fido to work. Look for jobs there.
absolutely 100%. For me, let's see, what is something that I believe people or is often misunderstood about work? Kim, for me, I think it's that school, education, degrees. I have three. You have multiple degrees. We are
I
both
have
very
energy.
highly educated people. And but I only have three. But you have these huge, like everything you've done is just so huge. But my point is that does not prepare you for the workplace.
Right. No
School,
class.
no class. I mean, this podcast is going to prepare you as much as we can, right? Because this is where the real orientation begins. But really, all those degrees, all those years in school, getting your master's, your PhD, your JD, your CPA, your MBA, whatever it is you have, has not prepared you for the real workplace realities. And I call it the three P's: the people, the politics, and the pressure, right? And I'm going to add one more: the practice. So
Yeah.
I'm going to call it four P's: the practice. You can go to law school all you want. You could go to whatever school all you want, but the actual practice of what you do is totally different than what happens when you get to work, and the decisions, the judgment that you have to make, that you have to exercise in the workplace in doing the practice. Totally different. They don't teach you that. Not even the rules of professional responsibility if you're in a profession that has such rules or code. That does not prepare you for what happens in the workplace. The four P's: practice, people, politics, pressure.
Spot on, spot on. Again, some of the things we say, I mean, some of them we have to make them generalizations. I don't mean to say that you can't have social justice goals that your employer can work to make a reality. But again, you have to take into account all the things that she's saying too. We're not, again, never talking about illegal activity, but in your regular, normal work activity, these four things, right? The people, the practice, the politics. And I mean, that alone could be, 12 podcasts, because the politics is really how things get done where you are. And then when you add pressure to that, then there's all these gray nuances, right? It's not just, oh, my company doesn't support equal rights or equal pay. Obviously that's something where it's illegal. If it's not, the pay is not equal, then there's going to be some issues legally. But there are issues that companies can address and will address. But there are also, again, time, place, and manner for everything. And knowing the politics and understanding it can be the difference between, is this a company where my values align with theirs? I do think the world has changed enough that companies care about the values, because those values, if they have a product, translate into what their product is and who is supportive of their product. But at the end of the day, if you don't master those four P's, your voice will, everyone will strive to mute your voice when you have something important to say. So you have to learn how to balance all those things. You can't come in the first day and say fight the power. You don't do it right. You move it. You know what they do, right? You're not even sure what they do, but once get your feet wet, understand what's going on, even then you might want to call somebody from somewhere else. But you have to take all these things into account. But these four P's are four powerful things to think about when you're making decisions about what you're doing at work.
And I want to say, if I may, those four P's apply to not only how you experience work, but in how you understand those in leadership and your boss.
Absolutely.
Because there are lots of things that happen in the decision-making process that sometimes doesn't get shared all the way downstream, right? And if you have a better understanding of that, I think you'll have a better, it could give you a better relationship with someone you may be reporting to, or it could just help you understand why certain things that you were really passionate about, you really cared about, didn't go in the direction that you thought it should go, especially if you understand that pressure and that politics, right? You'll understand why, okay, maybe this is why, someone or couldn't get on board with this, or really understanding, because there's the higher up you go, the bigger the organization, right? The bigger the issue, the more public the issue, the more political it will be, and the more political it will be, the more pressure there is. And so I think not only understanding that with respect to ourselves, but also to those to whom we report or who are in positions of authority over the organization.
So, I mean, you're so right. I mean, if you're a new person, this is your new career, and I remember this. I still can remember every moment of being a newbie. The listening is everything. If people see that you listen and you understand what they're saying, whether it's good or bad, whether you liked it or not, if you listen, people will understand that you are not just there to say, well, I think it should be, everybody always has an opinion about how it should be done, but not everybody has thought through what it will take to get it done. I do a lot of volunteer organizations and bar associations, and there's nothing more fun than a new person who comes in and says, well, you're doing it all wrong, and you shouldn't have done it this way, and you could have done it that way. And then it's always an older person. They go, well, we tried that way 20 years ago and it was a fiasco. So if you don't like what we're doing now, it is amazingly better than when we did what you just suggested 20 years ago. But you didn't know that because you didn't take the time to ask somebody before you threw this idea out. But all you would have had to do was have coffee with that person who said that, and you would have known that, and then you could have tweaked, right? You could have tweaked what you suggested, and then people will be like, wisdom from this new young person, because you would have taken the time to have some understanding. And usually if people see that, then when you make suggestions, they're not just some random thing you came up with because you think in your mind, right? As opposed to in this organization that you never worked in before, or on this board that you were never a part of before. You have no idea. So I usually workshop if there's something. And again, not where I'm like drilling people down, but more just listening. What do you think of this? And let them tell you. Don't tell them the answer. Don't give them the gotcha. Start out with, tell me what you think about it. Why do you think this is not running the way it should? How could this be better? And once you do that with 3 or 4 people, you probably can pull the best parts of those 4 conversations and come up with an idea that makes sense. And guess what? No one will be saying, well, didn't you know we did that 20 years ago? That's awful.
Absolutely.
It should never happen. It should never happen.
Absolutely. Or at least acknowledge when maybe you don't have all the information and the facts. Say it out the gate. Maybe I don't understand everything. Maybe I haven't been around long enough. Maybe there's a little bit more to this story, but I'm thinking X, Y, and Z. That way people know that you understand and that there are limitations to your knowledge of the information and the facts.
Absolutely. Can't go wrong. You've been authentic. You've been transparent, and you're letting people know I'm new to this, and I'm listening to it as this new ears, and I'm wondering why. And then somebody will say, well, in 1955 when we did blah blah blah, it was a disaster, but that's why we developed da 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 da. And then now this person can say, oh, so I do understand, and so that you don't trip over yourself. But it shows people that you are a thoughtful person and that you don't just make decisions without any regard for the organization. Because don't we know, Felice, lots of people who get the new job, they come in, they're over you, and now they're just going to change everything. They don't know what happened yesterday and why it affects what's going to happen tomorrow. They haven't talked to anybody. They don't know nobody. They don't have no friends. And so here we are having to dig out of a mess that we could have told people not to have. It happens every day in virtually every company all over America. And it's just because the people coming in have no idea that their job is not to disrupt and break things that are not broken, but to make things go better that could be better.
Now, Kim,
yeah, Yes.
Well, I have to say that there's always that person who's been around 20, 30 years who is still writing on a stone tablet and trying to convince everybody else that
That's
we should
true.
be writing on stone tablets,
True.
right?
They don't
There's
want email. They don't
you
want
know,
email. They want you to mail it to them, snail mail.
right. Or, back in the day before we had protections for pregnancy discrimination, right? Or folks that think that, oh, well, we can't give this person time off and we can't, like, those people are still alive and they
Yeah.
are still around,
The fax
right?
people, are they still alive? No, I'm just kidding.
Right. And some of these people are sitting in the boardroom. So
Yeah.
sometimes you have to be mindful
Yeah.
because maybe there are some opportunities to educate
Yeah.
when you are coming in the door. Because sometimes you might walk in and you're hearing things and you're like, did somebody just say that? Did you actually just say
Yeah.
that we can do X, Y, and Z to these people, right?
Yeah.
So it's all a balancing act, right?
Right.
So you will have, obviously, you always want to be respectful of those who have come before you and know more, right? But sometimes just sticking around for a long time, pressing a button for 40 years doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have the creativity, right? Or even the courage and creativity to do something new. Even if the tires are stuck in the mud and we're not going anywhere, you're telling me that we can't change the tires, right? We can't get out and push. We got to stay with our foot on the gas and keep trying to get out this mud, and it's not working. So I hear what you're saying, but there are also those people.
No. Respect. Having respect for people doesn't mean you can't respectfully disagree. You see what I'm saying? That's what people forget. We've lost that as a country, and it's really sad because, people didn't always have to agree, but if we listen to each other and we have respect for each other, then we don't devolve into name calling and just plain old crazy. So just because I don't agree that you want to fax it or mail it snail mail, and you've been doing it this way since the beginning of time and it has worked for you, doesn't mean I have to be disrespectful in order to make that point. I could just simply say, well, for me, this is more convenient. It works faster and I can get the job done and cross many more people and know that they've gotten it faster than if I do it this other way. So I respectfully disagree with you. I understand you do it that way, but I have been empowered to do it this other way, but our goals are the same. Our goal is the same. And so rather than picking a fight with somebody, and now every time you see them, y'all have to discuss whether we're using, stone flints to make the fire or whether we're going to just use the big lighter. Why waste this capital at work, and why take this focus away from the work because we're at work?
Because we're at work. All right, Kim, why don't you take us out with the final icebreaker?
The final one for today, I think the final one is, what is our goal? What is it that we want to get from having people listen to our podcast? What gift, right? Because we're sharing our personal gifts. What gift do we want people to come away with?
Oh, empowerment, really, and encouragement. My goal is to really let people know that we have all experienced it on some level. If you're at work, right? If we have been working a job at any point in our life, right? And a lot of people haven't. A lot of people went straight from school to being in some position where they made decisions for everybody else, but they never worked a real 9-to-5 job, right? I've been working since I was 15 years old. I've been working my entire life. I worked full time throughout undergrad, grad, and law school, right? I have been working. I want people to take away from this the support of someone who has walked in those shoes on both sides, as an employee, as an organizational leader and executive, and as an attorney, right? I have walked in all those shoes. And so I want people to walk away with the support and the information where they feel empowered now because they have the information and they feel encouraged to do something different.
Awesome. I couldn't have said it better. And I know people think that we probably had this conversation 20 times, but this particular one we've never had until right now. And what's so really great about this is we aren't here to say, and this is what success looks like. And we've had all these successes and we've done. No, we're here to talk about what went wrong. We're here to say, look, this went wrong, and stuff goes wrong all the time. And I think not enough time is spent on what went wrong, because the stuff that's really going wrong, if it's going wrong for you over and over again, you need a tweak, because it might be something that you're doing. And if you are devastated anytime everything goes wrong, then you need to let that go too. And I'm say this to you because I remember so many conversations with people when things didn't turn out the way I wanted. I had a job and it didn't, what they said about me and how they said it was kind of like they handed it to me with the right hand and took it away with the left hand, or they, right, get a lot of that. And then or maybe, a job didn't go the way my big picture envisioned it. And, it turns out that those experiences are basically the foundation of my success. So I treat failure and success pretty much the same, because they are different sides of the same coin. And the failure is what gives you the resilience and the strength to get up and keep going, because somebody, that one no over there, might be the basis of the yes you've been waiting for. And so for me, I'm doing this so that you will be empowered when something happens that you didn't like, or somebody said something you didn't want to hear, or somebody treated you the way they shouldn't have treated you. And maybe they did violate the law, or maybe they did something so subtle that you won't be able to prove it. But whatever they did, it's not the end of you. It's not the end of you. This is just the beginning of you. And so that's why we're here. I want to help people with that time. You still gonna feel bad. I can tell you that. I would feel bad. You're gonna feel bad. But knowing that you can get up and fight again. I think my mother used to say, if you don't take me out, I'm coming back. I'm coming back. I'm putting up. I'm gonna keep on moving. I'm gonna try somewhere else. If I can't get over it, I'm gonna try to get under it. If I can't get around it, I'm gonna try to go through it. And I think that spirit is how I approach work, because it's work. It's not vacation on the island. It's not, my dream of writing the novel. It is work, and there's going to be some hard times, but those hard times, if you really lean in and get what you're supposed to get out of it, you'll be able to convert it into something amazing.
Absolutely. And, 2 points that you just made, that if it keeps happening, maybe it's you. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you're doing something wrong, other than you keep going in the wrong places. You're looking for something, but you keep trying to fit where it's not for you. That's not for you. Right? You have to go plug in where your light will shine. You keep plugging yourself into a socket or an outlet that doesn't light up your light, right? You plugging it in, it's not lighting up. You have to find the outlet that's going to make you shine the brightest. So sometimes it is some introspection and things we need to tweak about how we're handling things. But other times it's where we're handling things, where we are trying to take our talents and our skills, right? And being mindful of that and saying, okay, well, maybe I need to switch it up. Maybe I'm excellent at what I do. Maybe I'm doing it in the wrong places and for the wrong people. The other thing, Kim, is you said not being devastated every single time that something happens. Every time you're slighted. I have to say, I struggle in this department. Because I'm I'm a passionate person.
Yeah,
I
I
am a
know.
passionate
I know.
person. I'm creative at heart, right? My undergraduate degree is a creative degree or liberal arts degree. I'm a creative person. And so I have feeling and I feel a lot, right? But I can't be easily broken every single time. People will betray you. Yes, people will say one thing in your face and a whole other thing behind your back. People will stab you in the back, in the side of the neck, in the eye. They will. At the same time, there are people who really care and people who are really looking out for you. So you balance that. And if you get that support in those areas, it helps to not be so just devastated every time something happens.
And we can promise you that stuff is going to go wrong. So even, I was like, you can just take that off the table. Don't even feel bad about that. Some bad stuff is going to happen. But the question is not, is bad things available? I think I just totally messed up all the grammar on that. But the question is really, what are you going to do? Is it going to take you out? Is this your dream? Is your dream to do this? If it's your dream, nobody should be able to take that away from you. I don't care how bad that day was. No one should be. If your dream is so fluid that somebody can take it away with you in a bad day or something they said or how did they treated you at work or they fired you, if that's enough to take away your dream, then you have to ask yourself, is it really your dream? So we are not having that. We're not having that here. We're not letting you take yourself out, right? This is, I would love to win the lottery, but I know this for sure. If I don't play, I can never win. And so you got to play this game. You know what I'm saying? And it's better odds, better odds. And you don't go broke. Better odds. So just remember that. I think if people remember that, and I'm going to say that a lot because sometimes people take themselves out of the game. And
Yes. I remember I used to say, I don't want to play games. I don't want to play games. And actually a relative said to me, listen, the game is being played whether or not you're in it.
that's right.
So my suggestion to you is to get in the game and play to win.
Play to win. Play to win. That should be our sub theme. Play to win. If you gotta work, play to win. Play to win. Don't. Hey, you may not win every day. You may not win every month. But if you play, you are assured the opportunity of winning.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, you have just heard and learned a lot from me and Kim. This is our first episode of Work It, the only podcast where we get honest about your situation at work. We hope that you enjoyed this discussion. And until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and keep working it.
Work it.